Don't worry about the hose, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, but it means I have to keep going back and filling up.
No, don't fill up. Don't go again. Let me catch you, because I've been told you're a live wire. Is that true?
A live wire?
Yeah, you don't stop. You're flitting around here, there and everywhere. Yeah. So I spoke to Dom earlier, and it was really interesting to hear you talk earlier, and also seeing how passionate you are about this eco village, and I think maybe more than just this one as well. Can you just tell me where that passion comes from? Why is that?
Well, I started off as a peace campaigner outside Parliament, and I was like looking at. I mean, I've worked for Friends of the Earth in the past and things. I've been a staff nurse. I've done puppet shows for children, and I come up with this thing that we're all heroes in our own adventure. We're just asleep. And beautiful. I was running workshops for people on being a hero in your own adventure, and this one that I was doing, it was for people with learning difficulties. And what happened, we'll go around the circle. First, absolutely right at the beginning of the workshop, before we'd even start doing anything particularly. Yeah. And one guy sitting opposite me, people came up with, we were going, what is a hero? Yeah. Well, first guy, there was all these different things, what a hero was, my wife for putting up with me, all that kind of thing, and the sort of regular one, which is somebody who's courageous, who doesn't think about their own safety, but goes and does what they think is right. And then this one guy opposite me who had autism, he said to me, there aren't any heroes, there are only villains, and he was really upset. And I was already a campaigner, I was already sort of like going to demonstrations and stuff, but I wasn't full on with that. And I said, well, what makes you say that? Is there any reason why you think that? And he said, Tony Blair. Tony Blair's a villain, like this. And I said, oh, right. And I thought, this is really odd, because I wasn't intending it to be a political thing, and yet I was already doing peace campaigning and stuff. Yeah. And so then this other guy who got Down syndrome patted me on the shoulder and he said, Tony Blair's a bad man, Tony Blair out. He's got Down syndrome. And I thought, and he kept coming out with that periodically throughout, tapping me on the shoulder and saying this. I thought, okay, I'm saying to these people that we're all heroes in our own adventure. I'd written a story called Mirthful Merriweather in the Kingdom of No Storytellers, which is about the way things are, but from a folk-telling, children's being able to tell. And it's basically about this kingdom surrounded by a high wall that nobody's allowed to tell their story except the official one. And if you do, then you're in trouble and be arrested.
And do you feel that's happening?
At the time, I hadn't been arrested. Yeah. But on the back of this guy who couldn't possibly speak for himself and do anything to prevent or stop what was happening, who felt totally disempowered by his circumstances and was so depressed about the state of the world, I thought, well, if he can't do it and Muslim people can't do it, then I've got to do it.
Interesting, beautiful.
And so the first thing I did was I went up to Parliament. I'd met Brian Hoare and I sort of stayed on the peace camp for about 15 months. And on the second day that I was there, I learnt that it was budget day. The first day I was there, I learnt it was budget day the following day. So I was back at my house in St Albans at the time, and I wrote out a big banner that I basically charge you, Tony Blair, with international acts of aggression. I claim my right to make a citizen's arrest on behalf of the Attorney General. And I basically had this banner, it's on an A1 sheet, and drove up to Parliament, broke through into Parliament, because the reason why was I wanted to make a connection with Tony Blair. I wanted to see how he could, day after day, do the same thing all the time, keep on. It's like,
so you wanted to ask him,
I wanted to make a connection because I didn't understand.
You didn't understand his belief or why he does what he does.
He could do it. Yeah. Because I was looking at pictures of kids with depleted uranium deformities and thinking, I've got kids. He's got kids. It just didn't ring. I couldn't get it. So I thought, right, I want to see if he reacts. And so he would be on the news because it was budget day. And the guy, he couldn't speak. I got home, 9 o'clock. I got detained for about 3.5 hours.
So what happened? You got in there? You got into...
Got in through the gates, drove up to the first barrier, was going... I had Skunk and Nancy Skankheads blaring out full blast.
Yeah.
Do you know that song?
No, but I know Skunk and Nancy.
The words on it, and I'm sorry, there's one word that's a swear word, and it's a pretty harsh one. But it's a black skinhead woman called Skin. She used to head this band. They're from Bristol.
Yeah.
I saw them at Glastonbury Festival, and they played this song. I actually ended up getting a CD. I never liked heavy rock music before.
Yeah.
But she's got a sweet voice as well as a rocky voice.
Yeah.
And I started watching the thing. I thought, oh, she's brilliant. Ran down to the front, you know. And Skankheads, I thought was particularly appropriate because I really felt like the whole world was on top of me. You know, like it was like I just felt crushed by everything. I just thought I can't move without. I don't feel like I can breathe anymore.
Yeah.
There's all these things going on in the world that I just don't agree with, and I couldn't. I felt really ineffective,
claustrophobic, frustrated.
Yeah. So the chorus on it is "Get off me, get off, get off me," and I'm like, but there's a verse in it, and it goes, "Bet you're posing hard. So secure, a smacked up cunty bitch. Now you're stuck for words, struggling for sarcastic wit. But I've got the special knowledge of the crap that makes your skank head tick. All your friends you like, all your shirty pretense you deny yourself." And so that was playing, and I basically did this thing. And I was going for arrest of Tony Blair. And I got detained by the police. We had a really nice conversation, made friends with the police, meant I had a relationship with them that was ongoing, you know, and I still have relationships with those people because I think if the only way to change the world is to change minds. You can't, you know, like
you have to change the minds.
Or the heart. You can't preach to the converted because what's the point of that?
Yeah.
You know, you just, your little group and making yourself feel better about yourself. I didn't want to feel better about myself. I didn't care. The police said to me, "Why did you do it? It could have been killed." I said, and if I'd have been killed, that would be less bad than living in the world that they've got planned for us for the future. I said, I've been looking into it. I don't want to live in that world and I don't want my children to live in it. I'm willing to risk everything to change what's going on, to start to create positive change rather than us sliding further and further into this negativity.
And create awareness.
I said, and also, I said, the reason I had to do it, I said, if a Muslim person had come in here or a person of colour, they'd probably be dead by now.
Yeah.
I said, whereas that's why I've got to do it, because I'm small, female, English, very strong, with a big gob. And
good description.
So I thought, just call me Gobby. Anyway, because I have got a big voice. I'm a storyteller, I do puppetry, and so I've got a really strong voice. I can be above the traffic at Parliament Square without a megaphone.
Perfect.
Telling people about depleted uranium, telling them it's illegal to pay tax, which was one of the first things I discovered. And as I went along anyway, Tony Blair that night couldn't speak on the news. He actually couldn't string a sentence together. And I
so
thought,
did you get a connection with Tony Blair? No.
I didn't actually, but I got a connection with him. I thought at the time maybe something else had happened to him that day as well, but the guy couldn't string a sentence together, so much so that it was on Have I Got News For You? I got home, Have I Got News For You was on. One story's just finishing. I was waiting for the news. I didn't expect it to be on there. But Ian Hislop says, "Did you see Tony Blair on the news today?" And I thought, whoa. He said, "Just look at this. You know his pauses? Have a look at this." I thought, his pauses? Okay. So I'm sitting there watching, and Tony Blair couldn't speak at all.
Yeah.
Now, because he's got that pause, I reckon he's probably got a stutter as well, because that's like how they train to speak, you know, without stuttering. And my friend's son had a stutter, and that's what he does. He has this pause. So I suspect he's got a stutter, which means that once he gets scared, he can't actually speak. And he couldn't speak at all. There was no sentence strung together after the budget. And all the family were leaning towards him. And I thought, that's interesting. But then I thought, well, I'm not the only individual in the world. Maybe something else happened today that's worried him.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later, he had me detained before he'd come out of the building because he was that scared. Now, that made me realise that the thing is that the fear is what's running the world, you know, and he's fearful, and the guy has been brainwashed, brought up in the way that he's been brought up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's not him, is it? It's not him.
He's just a
puppet, and you're a puppet master.
Yeah. And
interestingly enough.
That's really, I know, it's strange, isn't it?
No, but I know what you're saying. He's basically, fundamentally, the systems that are in place at the moment, even though we have faces of those people that are so-called speaking to us or at us at times, are actually not necessarily the people controlling anything, right?
Yeah. I mean, you go into Parliament and start going, instead of MPs' Treasury Committee meetings, go to something like, I went to this one, Amyas Morse. Ever heard of him?
No.
No, you wouldn't have done. Head of
who's that? Amyas?
Amyas Morse.
Okay.
Right? And I was looking through all the sort of like meetings, because I started going into Parliament in the other way, and just sort of like sitting in on meetings.
Yeah.
And I'd been going to the MPs ones anyway. This day it was the banking crisis. I thought I'd go to the banking crisis meeting, but I'll have a backup on it, because otherwise I probably won't get in, because there'll be lots of media there anyway. So I had this backup one, and Amyas Morse was the commercial, the director of commercial procurement for the MOD. So he's buying all the weaponry, the uniforms, all the other
the whole lot,
yeah.
all the equipment.
And I thought, depleted uranium, cluster bombs, he's the man. But it was a meeting for him to become, the title of his at the time, he'd got a job to start in 2nd of June last year, and it was Director, Comptroller, General. Director, Comptroller General. It's Chief Auditor in Parliament. So he gets to audit all the departments, and if anything needs investigating, then he'll investigate it. So money-wise. And
so he's in control
to take up his post, and it was like March last year. So I was standing outside, and I'd looked him up. I checked out what he looked like and everything, and he turned around. He was a very charming man, but he's one of the shadows, you know. Nobody knows about him. And I said, "You're Amyas Morse, aren't you?" And he went, "Yes." He said, "Are you coming in here?" And I said, "Yes, I am actually. I'm very interested in government finance." And he said, "Well, you won't see anything very interesting." I said, "We'll see." And I went in, and I'd been studying the teapot, the Freeman stuff by this point.
This is teapot. This is teapot.
PeoplesUnitedCommunity.org.
Yeah.
I wrote a few articles for them when I was getting arrested, and how I didn't get charged and all that kind of stuff, because I was using "I'm not a person, I do not understand statutes and acts of legislative rules, given the force of law, with consent of the governed, I'm not consenting, show me the human being that's been caused harm, loss or injury." I've been doing all of that.
Yeah.
And I went in anyway, and I said, and in halfway, there was all these MPs like there having a nice little chat with Amyas Morse. So, you know, we've had all this problem with expenses, what are your expenses like? And he was like, "Well, I prefer to have it was just nonsense. I prefer to have my meetings with, in my office with a cup of coffee and a sandwich. That's my experience." Right, okay. And anyway, he turned around and he said, "Heard anything interesting?" I said, "No, not really," because they had the little bell go, and they had to go off and do a vote. So 10 minutes, they're gone. I'm sitting there, he turns around all friendly and happy. So, heard anything? I said, "No, I haven't heard anything interesting yet." I said, "But I'd like to ask you a question." I said, "You know the United Kingdom government?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I've looked at Dun & Bradstreet Credit Reference Agency." I said, "It seems that the United Kingdom is a corporation run for profit." And he went, "Oh, no, it's a public corporation." And he went to his two little helpers, "Tell her about public corporations." And they started to say, I said, "Look," I said, "I really don't want to get into a heavy discussion about public corporations. Okay, you're saying it's not for commerce, but now," I said, "I just want to ask you one other thing." I said, "You know the person is a corporate legal fiction created with the birth certificate." I said, "They've been getting away with that for a very long time." And I said, "I was never given a full disclosure, even when I came of age to understand what it was." I said, "And the birth certificate is an enslavement document, and they created this person with it." And he turned his back on me. I thought, "You're a free man. You're actually a free man. You know the truth."
So he just turned his back on you instantly.
Basically, and then the MPs came in a couple of minutes, and the other two were going, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" Like his two little things. They didn't know, but he knew. And then stories were coming out in the paper about Gordon Brown losing $1.5 million through the MOD. A few months later, I was thinking, there you go.
Crazy.
That's what they do. They manipulate. They're there, like wheeling, dealing in the background. But you don't need to know too much about that.
No. So that's fine. But so what about
coming here?
No, yeah. Is that why? Is that how long have you been in this movement?
Don't do that to him.
I don't know. I've already been interviewed. I got read interest. I'm ready.
Yeah. Well, I was living outside Parliament for 15 months from March 2007. Then my father died and my kid's dad died as well within 2 months of each other, so I kind of couldn't do that at that point. I had to be with my kids more, and well, I had to be with them. You know, it was really devastating, especially their dad. And then I was doing campaigning still, but not like so intensively, but I was doing a lot of research.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'd realised after Tony Blair had me penned in order to leave a building, and I realised he was actually scared of me, I thought, I'd been looking at the Nuremberg tribunals, I'd been looking about who had been charged and who hadn't. I'd seen that the head of IG Farbin was now was released by 1951, and he produced the gases and designed the logo for Auschwitz, which was Work Leads to Freedom. And I thought, the people who are the real orchestrators, it's out by 1951, advising the UN on Codex Alimentarius, you know, and bringing on all that control on food legislation. And I thought the real architects never get before a court. And I'd also realised that the money system was, I'd read a book called How I Clobbered Every Bureaucratic Cash Confiscatory Agency Known to Man.
Yeah.
By Mary Elizabeth Croft.
Mary Elizabeth Croft.
I read that, and it's the first thing I'd read, and I didn't really comprehend a lot of it, because it was like all these words that and concepts that I wasn't yet familiar with. But I did see enough in it to think, hold on a minute, I'm going to the Bank of England to reclaim my birth certificate, which I did do and got arrested for. But anyway, that's another story.
So that started in sort of 2007, 2008.
Yeah, and I basically realised that what we had to do was take down interest-based money and take back the land. You know, to take back all the land. And Simon Moore, he's been really instrumental. He found this site. He was really into the diggers and Gerard Winstanley and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, coupled with the Freeman stuff, we could really take back the land. Though I didn't yet know enough of the Freeman stuff to actually do it.
And do you feel that that's, you know, when you say take back the land, do you feel that, because we spoke earlier, do you feel that that's just going to create more conflict, and then it's just going to be a one-on-one? Do you feel that that's going to open the minds that are dysfunctional within these systems? Do you think that's going to open the minds? Because that's what needs to be opened, right?
It does, yeah. I mean, the thing is that we've had our minds closed by being put in schools all day for however many hours, 6, 7 hours a day. You're inside all the time. You're trained to be an obedient puppy so that you can work in a place like Morrison's or whatever and do bleep, bleep, bleep all day.
Yeah.
Now, if you had a child who was running through nature, building things, doing all of that, can you imagine after by the time they were 16, they'd be willing to sit down for 8 hours and do that?
They wouldn't.
It's obedience training, you know.
And you've seen that with children anyway that do grow up in, like, you know, nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was at TP Valley for a few weeks when my kids were small, and to see the children there, how free they were, I wanted to choose to do something like that myself with my children, but I didn't know enough people who were doing it, and there were a few problems at TP Valley, so I didn't want to go there.
And what's TP Valley? Sorry, was TP Valley another eco village?
In Cumdy. It's like a piece of land. They're all teepees up in Wales, near Llandilo.
Okay.
And I went there and it was a beautiful place, but there was a lot of. There were also some traveller vans, and they just were dealing really heavy drugs. The kids were all being exposed to this stuff, and I just thought, I can't live here.
It's not good, yeah.
You know, there was some fantastic stuff. People who were so totally self-sufficient, like growing all their own stuff in the woods, and it was just beautiful. But I just couldn't reconcile the other aspects of it. So I ended up, like, my kids went to Steiner School and everything, really, and we did do the more conventional route. Yeah. Now I wish that I could do it again, because I was like, I wouldn't send my children to school at all, not a Steiner School or anything. I would want them to be out learning how to live
learning
on
off the land.
Not learning how to fill in bits of paper, to learn how to, you know, if they want to eat meat or fish or anything, learn how to get it yourself.
Totally.
If you learn what you can eat, you know, the free
from
food.
from the area.
Place,
totally.
It's just like full of herbs. I mean, at the moment they're not all up, but we've got like comfrey, which is good, is knit bone, good for healing bones.
Yeah.
And a friend of ours actually put it on his fracture. Didn't even have a plaster of Paris or anything. Within 2.5 weeks, the doctors were shocked. It was completely healed. The bones were healed.
So healing off the land, healing off the herbs.
Yeah, all the natural herbs.
Like the Ayurveda, Ayurveda healing is all about that, right? That's the Indian version that they've taken all the herbs and they take all the healing and deal with the psyche, deal with the mind, and learn how to heal.
Yeah. And we feel like we've got like evening primrose and St John's wort. Like St John's wort, people think it's for depression, and they go and buy the capsules. You can make a tincture yourself.
Yeah.
You just nip the flowers out, not the buds.
Yeah.
It's really, you have to be careful. They're like these little 5-pointed star flowers.
Yeah.
And they didn't just use it for depression in times gone by. It was actually for battle wounds. They used it for stab wounds on the battlefield.
Okay, so
it's that powerful. So we've been using it on, like, somebody got a nail, I got a nail
cuts
through my foot, cuts, all that kind of stuff. And it's
but
just
it's knowledge that's not known, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing.
Well, that's right. They burnt the witches, didn't they?
Yeah, they burnt the witches.
They're herbalists.
It's interesting you bring that up, because I spoke to somebody recently about healing, natural healing, you know, homeopathic remedies and so on. And somebody said to me that, you know, that's becoming more and more. We're opening our mind more to that. Now, I don't know if with some of the information you've shared and Dom shared today, I mean, obviously there's a hell of a lot going on in politics and a hell of a lot going on out of our control on so many levels, which maybe things will happen from that we can't control. But coming back to ourselves, coming back to, you know, who we really are, and really learning, like you just said, learning about how the land really works, learning about ourselves, learning about the planet, learning about herbs, learning about healing, learning about maybe opening the mind to, you know, not just psychic ability, but all these different abilities. Do you think do you think that's coming out more?
I think so. I think that I think because I've sort of been intensively doing this for, it's over 3 years now, I really see the difference in people. Yeah. It's like 3 years ago, my friend was phoning my sister in Barcelona and saying that she thought I should see a doctor because I was so upset. And I was like, it's normal to be upset. What's not normal is to be talking about some bird whose husband's rode off in a canoe and she's claimed some insurance. To me, that's not normal. You know, it's like, it doesn't matter to me. It's nothing that I have any effect on. It's normal to be upset about children being born with deformities, isn't it? If it was somebody on our street, we'd all be going to the police and saying somebody's just done this to a baby, and yet it's happening to millions of babies. Yeah. And if I'm upset, it's because I'm looking at it. Yeah,
you're seeing the pain. You know, yeah, you're seeing the causes.
Yeah, I lost 2 babies at 5 months pregnant before I had my daughter, after I'd had my son. I know what it's like to lose a baby. Yeah. But to be at the point where you can never have a normal baby, ever, that to me would have been, you know, then I wouldn't have my daughter. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It'd be over. Yeah. And I just thought, these people can't have relationships with their husbands. They can't have anything, you know, it's all gone. Everything's been taken away from them. And
interesting. So moving on from here, because this one's going to, unfortunately, people have to move, right? This has to fold. Yeah. So when an eco village folds, I know Dom said there's others that are starting up and different, you know, and Gareth said that there's you know, there's others starting up in different places. So is that what it's like? And until it's accepted and the land's given to these people, it's just you just have to uproot and move like gypsies.
Well, you see, the thing is that I very much wanted to try something new, as did Dom. We're basically challenging the money itself. You know, we've been through an arrest that we've got a court case for in October, which is up on Facebook. It's on commonly known as Dom's Facebook page, commonly known as Dom, and it actually is, it's called Lawful Rebellion, Invite to Court, Free Dom and Mirthful Merriweather. It's on his Facebook thing, so you can have a look at it. And it's like, I feel that in a way, because at Tea Park we've got some fantastic research people, and then there's some of us actually putting it into practice. Yeah. And I'm one of those people. I want to make change happen, and I think a lot of people who are doing the sort of admin stuff, maybe their partners don't agree with them actually going for it as well, because they're not quite sure of it. It's all those things to consider.
A lot of fear, the unknown.
Yeah, and I don't have that. I have more fear that I'd have more fear if I wasn't doing something than if I was doing something. And we just, you know, with this place, it was an ideal opportunity, I felt, but obviously it wasn't, because it hasn't happened, and the people weren't ready for it. When the people, I think it's a case of the people have to be ready for it.
But they have to know in their mind as well. So, for example, like Gareth said, that everything that they've superseded here and the message and everything they're sharing here is positive on one level. Yeah, because people have learned that they can live off the land and that they can make an eco-village work and people can come together and can draw resources and it can work. So that's a positive, right?
Yeah.
But what you and Dom are saying, that there's almost like now with some extensive research and some deeper knowledge, you can actually really
face them with the truth.
Yeah, and keep maybe the land.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, right, with the judicial system, the legal system is totally fraudulent.
Yeah.
And that's what I discovered as I was sort of like doing all this campaigning to kind of make change, to stop the war, to bring peace. I realised that the fundamentals were so rooted in our everyday language. As I started looking at TPUC and stuff, I just thought, oh my God, it's like we are living. This is the matrix.
Yeah.
This is the matrix of words. It's called spelling.
Yeah.
You know, magic spell. No, it's not a magic spell. All this nonsense about magic spells. It's a magic trick.
Yeah.
It's just a trick.
Yeah.
And I just want to stop it. I just want it to stop. I'm going to stop it.
Yeah.
And we will reclaim the land. They cannot stop us. It's never going to happen because there are too many people that know. Even if we were, everyone but me and Dom on here was some kind of agent provocateur or a sabotager or whatever, even if it was like that, it doesn't even matter because eventually everyone will wake up to this and realise that they're slaves. If they don't want to be slaves, then they've got to take action and do something different.
Yeah.
We want to take down the Act of Enclosure, for example. It's an act, it's a legislative rule of the Law Society. Given the force of law with my consent, well, I don't consent.
Yeah.
Same with the oath of the judge. The judge will never swear an oath because it's law of land. It brings him under law. Says he's sworn to uphold the law. He stands on his oath. He can't operate the statutes and acts because they're not law. They're legislative rules. You know, and the affidavits that we wrote were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Dom mentioned them.
I think that it was quite interesting that when we went to the court door, we didn't go in. We couldn't make ourselves known because everyone wanted to speak in pleading, you know, making a plea. And there is this sort of... We didn't go in. We didn't do what we were intending to do originally.
Everything happens for a reason?
Yeah, everything happens for a reason. And I think that I'm much more used to courts. I know what court's about. It's basically about extracting commerce from you. And the other people felt that the judge was a nice man and they just wanted to explain to him, you know, and all that.
And he might reason.
People look up to the nice man.
Yeah.
You know, they look up to the teacher. We've been taught. This is our conditioning. You know, it's like we went and talked to one of the receptionists in the court, and we were saying about the judge not standing on his oath. This was yesterday, and that our affidavits hadn't been rebutted. Well, they don't have to be because we're never there to uphold our statements in the court, so therefore we've lost that little thing, but we've learnt loads. She was basically, I said, you know, the judges are meant to stand on their oath. Oh, well, I can't, you know, talk about that. I said, but if it was anyone else other than a judge, you'd question who they were. If it was someone, you know, coming round to, like, force you to pay your TV licence or something, you'd want to know who they were. You know, you wouldn't just let any stranger into your home, and you wouldn't just let any stranger have jurisdiction over you. Because he says, I am district judge, you never question it.
Yeah, it's
but
just
they
accepted.
do have an oath. Oh, well, I can't really, like, comment on that because, you know, he's the judge. It's like, there really is this, even if you are kind of in rebellion, there's this, like, fear, big building, big chair, you're sitting up there.
Yeah.
It's like teacher, it puts you back into child.
Yeah, so you're already in it's already a status of power, which actually it plays on your innermost fears, which already takes away any you know, strength or truth or, you know, love that you know is there, because all of a sudden it's like, oh no,
you've got to
you have to
abide by
cower.
his rules.
Yeah,
you've got to. He's set, their rules apply.
Yeah.
So people might get annoyed with me because I'm saying, hold on a minute, mate, where's your oath?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you can't question him. He's sitting there, we're going to just go in and talk.
Yeah, and
you
it
know?
doesn't work.
And I think people will realise, but it just wasn't the right time.
No.
And I think that one of the biggest things I've learnt here is that there is this real cult of personality and status and power and all the rest of it. And I'm just as susceptible to it as anybody else. And I think that you really have to wise up to it, because people will sabotage what you're doing sometimes.
No matter what you're in.
Surreptitiously, behind your back, and be very nice to your face. The people who are easy to spot are those who are pretty nasty straight off, or, you know, obviously hiding something. But charismatic people, I think, beware.